Now, Dina, are you there? You can turn the lights on in your on your camera and
Hi.
Hey.
here she is. Big cheer for Dina. That's 175 Rebel Book Club members welcoming you.
Thank you for having me.
There we go. You've had a cocktail made for you. You've got an app there for you. I mean, it's a good start.
Yeah, love it. I love that cocktail. That was amazing.
Yeah, they're good, aren't they? We've been drinking a lot of cocktails over the last few years. So thank you for joining us. We've got a good chunk of time with you this evening, so we really appreciate that. But we wanted to bring on stage straight away some friends of yours and ours who are in Greece. So first of all, we'd like to invite Kira from Echo Library, and also another Dina from Secondary. And if they can make their way onto the stage. Yeah, Kira's here.
Hey.
Hey, Kira, welcome.
Hi, is my audio working?
Your audio's working, you're on. We can
Brilliant.
see you. And Dina's here as well.
Hello.
Hey.
Amazing. Welcome, Dina. Full house. So the two Dinas, you know each other, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us that story first.
Do you want to tell it, Dina?
Yeah, well, Secondary is a wonderful charity at Katsikas refugee camp in inland Greece. Or in mainland Greece, where I visited twice. I spent a lot of time. If you've read the book, Katsikas. A big chunk of the book is set there. And I was introduced to Dina and Secondary by Paul Hutchings, who ran Refugee Support, which was the previous charity that I work with. And so now Dina and I and Giovanni, also from Secondary, are working together on a lot of different things to help spread the word about their work, which is educating the children at the camp, which is so vital and so very important. And she'll tell you more about it. So yeah, that's how but we've never met in person. It's just been Zoom.
Which is really odd. I feel like I know you.
Yeah, well, we do know each other. We text a lot and we see each other on Zoom.
Exactly.
You're making things better even without having met. And so yeah, the ISO boxes that you were talking about in the book, this is the work that you do at Secondary. So perhaps, Dina, you can take us back a couple of steps. What was your journey to getting involved with this project, and what is it all about?
Sure. So actually, I'm one of the co-founders of Secondary. I was previously working in the field of education in Qatar, actually, in Qatar Foundation. And as the refugee crisis sort of started spilling over into Europe, I decided that I wanted to act, like I wanted to go and see for myself what was actually happening. The news sounded unbelievable. I couldn't believe that this is how Europe was reacting to this issue. And what I saw was independent volunteers, so regular citizens from across the world stepping up and coming forward to try and do something. And I think for me, it was really important to go and see for myself what was actually happening, so I could engage my network in a meaningful way. And I ended up in Katsikas in 2016 when the borders had just closed and around 70,000 people got stuck in Greece. And, the conditions were unbelievable. I mean, this was at a time when people were living in tents, similar to what's happening now on Lesbos. It was, people are living in floorless tents with no access to basic services. And these are people who have fled war, This is, we have conventions that are supposed to be guiding the way that we approach these issues. And the sort of institutional and government response was completely absent. And what I saw was regular people reacting. And something really changed there. I mean, I myself am a refugee. I'm Bosnian, so I was a child when this happened to me. So I think it was just, I couldn't stand by watching Europe react in that way. And yeah, like I said, something changed. I felt like what I was doing previously had just lost meaning. And I decided to basically continue volunteering on and off for about a year. In that time, I met Giovanni, the other co-founder, and we started a project called Secondary. We're an educational organization. We are an NGO, and our sort of approach is not one of regular NGOs. We think that there's a lot lacking in how institutions approach refugees. There's a real sort of dehumanization, even when the organizations themselves think they're not doing it. There's an us and a them, just by the way things are organized. And we thought this was really destructive. And so our kind of approach is really sort of community driven and community based. And we spend a lot of time investing in, the people who are there, learning from them, trying to figure out what they need and how we can help. They know a lot of things. They have a lot of skills. Their needs are, language or a safe place to leave their children for a few hours. And so what we've basically done over the last 3 years is, we've evolved from, teaching English to delivering language classes in both English and Greek to adults, to running a sort of youth well-being program called the Scouts, like modeled on the Scouting movement, whose main aim is to take kids out of the camps. So, people in Greece live in camps on the outskirts of local society, but the idea is that they're somehow supposed to integrate and feel like they belong, which is just completely crazy. There's no opportunity for them to do that. So we really focus on taking people out of camp, getting them familiarized with the local community, taking kids to see the forest and the lake and the beach and all the things that other kids who identify as Greek would be experiencing. And so this since 2016. And currently we're in a little bit of a difficult situation, like everybody else in Greece. The camps are in lockdown and everything is sort of up in the air a little bit. Also, the government restrictions are getting worse in terms of how controlling the movement of people here. But we're sticking by and waiting for things to improve, and ready to go back in when we can.
It's incredible. We've in our own bubbles, we have these conversations about changing careers and making pivots in our own life, and like what you've done, and Giovanni, and it's sort of next level career change. And so thank you for showing us that bravery. And I guess what a lot of things we've been talking about this month, in fact, when I was reading the passages in Dina's book about visiting what is your work, is this making the shift from charity or from charitable work towards empowering people, and the word dignity, Dina Nairi, that you bring up so often. What are the things that you've been doing at Secondary have been the most positive in terms of that's really worked from that point of view?
It's about the it's really simple, but it's really about like the interactions. It's really about like being in camp and being accessible to people and being open and being there for them to come and ask you questions. And we're really like, our philosophy, like, again, for us, refugees are people. Like, it sounds obvious and it sounds ridiculous, but it's not how they're treated. And it's usually like, okay, you, the refugee, like, we can't come into your container. We cannot we cannot engage with you in a personal way. Like, we can't build relationships. This is usually how the humanitarian sector responds to this for some reasons that are completely legitimate, I'm sure, but like this proves something. These are people who have had lives and jobs and everything back home, and so they didn't lose that humanity when they became refugees. And so for them, like, they don't understand why the people who work there can't have a cup of tea with them. Like, what's wrong with that? So for us, what really the kind of impact we see the most is in the relationships that we build and in how we approach those relationships. And it's not about appeasing everybody. It's not about, there's absolutely no pity. It's really about getting to know each person as who they are and trying to help them and point them in the right direction along the way. So it's really like, it's really about relationship building that I think has been the most effective, and what's kept us here for so long, I think. I mean, the Greek government did a lot in terms of trying to remove small-scale projects and really institutionalize the response. But I think what we've managed to do, like the trust that we've managed to build with the community has kept us here. And we're one of 2 remaining like grassroots projects that are still active, that still have really high, participation and retention rates. And I think this is really the key component of this has been the fact that we have never seen them as an other.
You've proved it, and it's working. It's amazing. Now, Ben, take it. We've got the next connection here in this room is with Echo Library. Ben, remind us how we connected with them, and we can move on to Kira's story.
Yeah, well, every now and then we find that some vouchers that we have shipped out to people go unclaimed, and they're kind of caught inside the Amazon system, and we didn't have a good a good thing, anything to put them to use with, really. So we decided to pull together any unused vouchers, and we realized that there was a big gap in what Kira was doing on the ground and actually getting some very specific titles to some very specific people that need them. And yeah, it just felt like a really nice way for us to make use of any excess credit. And yeah, kicked off a lovely relationship with the guys at Echo, and Kira's probably best place to tell more. But yeah, really proud to be working with you and hope we can do loads more together.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. That was such a wonderful message we received back in, when was it? It was sometime during lockdown, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It was like, it's like, hey, we've got unused Amazon vouchers. Do you want stuff? And the library team was just like, someone's offering specific books. It was so exciting. Like, we've got, a never-ending. I'm about to just jump in with really specific stories. Rewind. Go. What we do is we're a mobile library, which means we've got a van. It's an old LDV convoy with shelves, seating. We used to have Wi-Fi, having problems with that, but usually Wi-Fi, lights in the back. And we're based in Athens, and we drive out to different specific locations with a weekly timetable for a 2-3 hour session. Our librarians are all volunteers. Many of us live in Athens and many of us live in the camps. And we work together with a mostly horizontal consensus-based structure. Dina, I was really hearing what you were saying about your work up north and feeling it here. But yeah, the books are, we're a community space and also an education hub, because those things are really lacking in the camps. The camps mostly lack basic infrastructure. I mean, as Dina described, many people are living in tents that you might think about buying for a festival to live in for 3 days, and instead you've got a large family. And also Connax's ISO boxes. So the thought of having even basic education in Greek and English is often like just totally lacking. So we try and provide those basic needs.
And it's
and also, yeah.
Sorry, Kira, I was just thinking to rewind a couple of steps as well, because it's amazing what you've achieved out of what seems like, literally one van and an extremely passionate, committed group. But how did it start? How did the Echo Library journey begin?
Yeah, so it started in an informal camp up north near Ioannina, in a disused petrol station that's called, the brand is Echo, EKO. And there were, as Dean described, like international volunteers and local people and people who were trying to make the journey through from places where they've been displaced through to the rest of Europe when the EU-Turkey deal, the first one in 2016, came through. So that shut the border out of Greece, and those people who were trying to walk out of Greece ended up stuck there. So these informal camps sprung up, and it was a group of people who were there, partly living, partly volunteering, who said, okay, there's some people around cooking, there's some people around like trying to get blankets out, but humans need food for the mind and food for the soul as well. People are here wasting their time when they've got so much potential and so much that they could be doing. Let's try and get some books together to lend people. So that's when the first static library started. It was in 2017 that the idea of moving it into a van so that it could get to more locations happened. And that's when he's called Gary, our van. That's when Gary was born. And we moved down to Athens in 2018, which is when I got involved with the project. Because there are a lot of 11 different camps and community centres around a 2-hour drive perimeter around Athens.
Amazing.
So that's how the project came to where it is now.
Fantastic. And I wanted to ask you, Dina Nairi, your reflection on rehearing these stories, because I know you've been supportive of so many of these projects that are on the front line. What is it like? Are you connecting and having conversations with people like Dina and Kira all the time?
Yeah, well, less so since the pandemic, just because a lot of people are remote now and not as connected to the camps. But yes, I have been since I left, and it's really heartening to know how many people are focusing on this question, and that there are such good charities and the ones that really focus on things like dignity and education, the long-term health and well-being and mental well-being of people and their families. The thing that shocked me the most, going, this was, by the way, before Second Tree. When I went to Katsakas, it was just like a food charity that I went with. But it was really shocking to see how idly the children spent their days and how little they had to do, and how much time was passing by with absolutely no continuation of school. I mean, can you imagine, you think you're going to go somewhere for 2 months and wait for your next life, and that 2 months turns into 2 years, and suddenly your child isn't this precocious, 9-year-old anymore. They're an idle, angry preteen. That's a huge difference. You need people there to teach, to give them books, to give them language skills, and to help them, transition to this other kind of life. And so now, as I have been in touch with Second Tree and, with other charities, just seeing that there are people working on this question, it's heartening, and it makes me feel like, there is hope for the situation in the camps, because I mean it's dire in so many ways, and there's so many different kinds of camps around the world, with different levels of needs. But at the very least, in these inland Greece camps, and other places too, there's people working on.
Yeah, and these are the stories that those of us who are just sitting there with the BBC News and CNN flying past us, we really need to hear. So thank you for being here all tonight. But even sadly today, it's another headline news story, literally in the last 3 hours, about migrant boat, drownings happening in the Channel between the UK and France. And already lots of members asking here, how can we help? Now, there's obvious ways like fundraising, and we're as a small community, we'll keep trying to do that with both these organizations. But what can individuals do between the small thing to the very, very big thing that you've, Kira and Dina, have both done with your lives to try and help? And we'll just a couple of thoughts now, and then in the breakout sessions after our chat with Dina, members, you can come and talk directly with Kira and Dina as well about this. So just a couple of thoughts for now on how can we help.
Shall I go first?
Go for it.
Okay, so we're also volunteer run entirely. We have a very small core team of myself and the other founders. So we invite and welcome volunteers in many different capacities. On our website, secondtree.org, you can find different kinds of opportunities on there. So we would look for people who have an educational background, who have taught languages before. Like we look for qualified and skilled volunteers. This is important to emphasize, because we are an educational organization, and people deserve quality even if they're living in really horrible conditions. But we do also have different opportunities up there to have a look at. We have also remote opportunities, so we understand that some people can't just get up and leave. So there are remote positions that people can apply for. Like we're grassroots. We have limited skills within us, and we invite others to tell us how they can help. We're all ears, basically. Of course, donations, these are things that keep us alive. But I would say that, our ears are definitely open. We're happy to collaborate on many different things that people can approach us with, as well as the ones that our website talks about.
Fantastic. What about you, Kira?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that as well as in Greece, there are people who need community support in the UK as well. And if you have time and skills and love to share, getting involved with either something which is supporting, like we call it sometimes frontline support, which means hosting someone in your home who doesn't have a home, particularly if they're waiting for an asylum decision, they're being forced to live, they're not allowed to work, and they're going to be forced to live on an extraordinarily low amount of money while they wait for that decision. If you can host someone, particularly an unaccompanied minor, in your home, that's like brilliant and amazing. Or getting involved with a community center. You might find, especially if you're feeling super lonely, as we all can. I mean, I'm from London, I know it can be isolating. Like you might be surprised at what you get back from doing that kind of support work. And also campaign work. The policies being pushed through that commit violence against people on the move, both in Britain's borders, as we're now seeing, but Britain's also, as a part of the EU and separately, had a huge role to play in the violent policies that are being pursued against people on the move in Greece. Greece is being used as a holding port for everyone being pushed into Europe. So if you want to get involved doing like either direct action or campaign work or within political parties, I'm really happy I know a few groups in the UK, and I'm happy to send those through, or ask your friends. You'd be surprised at how many people are doing this kind of work. And again, if you're feeling like isolated and disenfranchised and politically numb, this can be a really good antidote to that alienation. But on the other hand, we also always need books. So if you happen to have, getting there later.
That was a great political speech with like an easy to action thing right at the end there, which was like, listen, if we can turn like a tiny fraction of Jeff Bezos hoarding all that credit into like, you know, books in Farsi and many other languages for people who really need it, let's do it. Of course, they're the ones that go unclaimed. So people who are here tonight are like, I always claim my voucher, but there are others that don't, and we can put them to good use. Kira and Dina, thank you so much. We hope that you can stay with us for a bit longer, because after we've had a chat with Dina Nairi now in 25 minutes, Kira and Dina have said that they will be in the session, so you can go and talk to them directly about this volunteering opportunities and learn more. So we'll say goodbye to you for now and see you in the breakout sessions in a little bit. Thanks again.